Chapter 3. Influence of the events of Paris and Fontainebleau. Meanwhile, the Duc de Vicenza arrived at Fontainebleau, and on the night of the 2nd of April he presented himself to Napoleon. Though the Allies had declared themselves against the person of Napoleon, yet hope was not entirely lost. The Duc de Vicenza had obtained an interview with the Allied powers and had succeeded in bringing about a return of feeling favorable to the interests of the King of Rome and the Empress Regent. This course also had its legitimacy and carried with it great weight of opinion. It now balanced in the minds of the sovereigns the opposite resolutions that were suggested to them in favor of the Bourbons. But a speedy decision was necessary on the part of Napoleon, and the Duc de Vicenza now came to solicit his abdication. Napoleon conceived that such a step should not be adopted precipitately. He resisted the solicitation of the Duc de Vicenza and refused to explain himself. In the morning he mounted his horse to inspect the line of his advanced posts, and the whole of the day, the 3rd, was spent in military operations. The troops were in good spirits and received with acclamations of joy the project of delivering the capital from the hands of the enemy. The young generals, inspired with military ardor, were ready to brave new dangers and fatigue. But it was not thus with the officers in the more elevated ranks. Enough has already been said to show how they were influenced by the events of Paris. They trembled at the thought of the miseries which a single movement might bring upon the wives, children, friends whom they had left in the capital. They dreaded to lose in what might be called a headlong adventure the rank and fortune which had been so dearly purchased and which they had not yet enjoyed in peace. And the eagerness of the troops to make a rush upon the capital excited the highest degree of alarm. Probably Napoleon had not kept sufficiently secret the proposal that had been made for his abdication. This delicate question was now publicly canvassed. The subject was whispered in the gallery of the palace and even on the staircase of the Cheval Blanc. Unfortunately, the abdication was agreeable to the views of a numerous party. It was the least disgraceful mode of getting rid of Napoleon, because they would thus be released from him by his own free will. It was therefore deemed most advisable to bring matters to a conclusion in this way, and in case Napoleon should reject the proposition, some even spoke of breaking the scepter in his hand. During this state of things, intelligence arrived that the Senate had proclaimed the abdication. Napoleon received the Senatus Consultum on the night of the 3rd by an express by the Duc de Ragusa. The news was almost immediately circulated among all the most distinguished individuals in Fontainebleau, and it became the general topic of conversation. On the 4th, orders were issued for transferring the imperial headquarters to a position between Pontarlier and Assun. After the parade, which took place every day at noon in the court of the Cheval Blanc, some of the principal officers of the army escorted Napoleon back to his apartment. The Prince of Neuchatel, the Prince of the Muscova, the Duc de Danzig, the Duc de Reggio, and the Duc de Taranto, the Duc de Bassano, Grand Marshal Bertrand, and some other individuals were assembled in the salon. At the close of this audience was expected to be the signal for mounting horse and quitting Fontainebleau. But a conference had been commenced on the situation of affairs. It was prolonged until the afternoon, and when it ended, Napoleon's abdication became known. One thing forcibly struck Napoleon, namely the want of spirit evinced by his old companions in arms. He yielded to what was represented to him as the wish of the army. But if Napoleon abdicated, it was only in favor of the succession of his son and the regency of the Empress. The act of abdication, which he wrote with his own hand, was as follows. The Allied powers, having proclaimed that the Emperor Napoleon was the only obstacle to the restoration of peace in Europe, the Emperor, faithful to his oath, declares that he is ready to resign the throne, to quit France, and even sacrifice his life for the welfare of the country, which is inseparable from the rights of his son, those of the regency of the Empress, and the maintenance of the laws of the Empire. Given at our palace, Fontainebleau, Napoleon, April 4th, 1814.